Bryant for MMA H.E.A.T. I'm here with Clay Guida, one of the most popular, one of the most beloved guys in the UFC, and you're fresh off your win over Robbie Peralta at UFC Fight Night. I see, you got a little bit of action going on over your eye there, but how are you feeling after that fight?
I'm great, Karyn. First of all, thanks for the kind introduction. I appreciate it. I don't know about the most popular, but yeah, we're always having a good time. So I definitely say we have as much fun as anyone out there. So.
Well, you're certainly one of the most recognizable guys. You've been there for a long time. Yeah, right? Well, we'll talk about that. The caveman thing.
And I shaved today, too.
Yeah. Well, we may as well get right into that. Why, it's funny when I watch you fight and when I watch Benson Henderson fight, sometimes I'm like, with the hair, though. I'm like, tie it back. Do something. And do you keep it out strategically?
So I train, sometimes I'll train with it, tied up a little bit, and then I'll just, the closer I get to fight, I just leave it rock,
Right.
Guys always get their fingers stuck in there, they all apologize. I'm like, I'm pretty used to it by now. 40-plus fights, doesn't bother me. But as you saw in Fairfax, they told me, the UFC contacted me a couple days earlier, all right, just want to let you know we can braid your hair if you want. And I'm like, excuse me? I didn't really know who the number was that texted me. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, oh, yeah, the commission wants you to braid your ponytail your hair. I'm like, I got it. I'll put it in a nice little knot and we'll be fine. So I did the little samurai whatever, but yeah, that's me, what I mean? That's our trademark, recognizable, just the ugly hair, and if it's in our face, our opponent can't really always tell what we're going to do, so it's worked so far.
Well, that's what I was wondering, but I do think sometimes if somebody were trying to choke you, does it give them a little bit of grip?
You know what, and I've heard Joe Rogan talk about that too. I think sometimes when I'm getting guillotined, when I think it kind of rubs and it loosens it. Okay. I don't know. It just, to me, I think it seems like it almost makes it a little bit more slippery. It's hard to grip onto. So I don't know. I get guillotined by some of the best guys out there in practice where it counts. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm keeping the hair for a while.
Nice. So how do you feel about that victory? It was nice to get back on the winning track, I'm sure. Did you feel, afterwards, I guess you kind of said you didn't love your performance in there. So what was wrong with it?
It's been almost a year. My last victory was against Kawajiri last April in Abu Dhabi. So that's too long for me. You know what I mean? Dennis Bermuda's got the best of me, back in the end of July last summer. This was definitely not one of my best performances. Yeah, I felt good trying some different things, but we got back to the old wrestling and, high-flying slams and stuff like that. I know there was, I could have finished him definitely in the third when I had that side choke, possibly in the second, but we're always going for finishes. It just shows you it's a testament to how tough, Robbie is. But I always try to look at my opponent's pre-fights, prior fights, and Thiago Tavares, very high-level black belt, submitted him in the end of the first round. I'm not a black belt. I don't even think I have a white belt, but I know I have the technique. I know I have the ability to submit guys on the ground. So that's my area of expertise, and I should have been able to finish that fight. But we'll get him next time.
Well, you did add some new wrinkles to your game, I'm assuming, by the fact that you did train elsewhere this time. So you went to Alpha Male, and you also went out to GFC for a little bit, right? So what was the motivation behind, just trying out a couple of other gyms?
Simple, just mixing it up a little bit, getting some different looks, maybe a little fresh start, Mike Winklejohn and Greg Jackson, and Brandon Gibson, Mike Valley, they've taught me so much, you know what I mean? And I know they support me because they always said there's an open door, and they're always like, go out there and learn some stuff and come on back and teach us some stuff too, you know what I mean? So that, to me, I know that they have my best interest in mind as an athlete, as a friend, as a family member, and that's, to me, that's what is important in our relationship after, and I'll always go back there and train at Jackson's. Just kind of, I like being by the beach a little bit too. I like getting out and running, by the water. I like, doing my kayaking, doing my paddle boarding, doing my surfing, skateboarding, doing hot yoga, and just, knowing there's other than, just going back and staying in the RV at the, in the campground or on the res back in Albuquerque too. So just mixing it up, getting some different looks on my hands, doing some boxing up by, Edmond at Glendale, working down here at Systems Training Center in Hawthorne. I call it Hermosa Beach pretty much because we're right by the beach, working with some really young up and coming fighters, and, and Ian and Marcus are good instructors. And then obviously, Alpha Male speaks for itself. Faber and I have been friends for a long time, and Benavides, and the list goes on. So they have the who's who, the little guys up there, and Lance Palmer, and Cardi Garbett, and Chad Money Mendes. They've helped me a lot, and it's just we have a good time wherever we're at. So I kind of get the best of both worlds. I get the beach down here, kind of outside LA, Hollywood area up there in Glendale, and then I get to be inland and by water and lakes, and I can fish on the weekends, fish after practice up in Sacramento.
It's funny, obviously the first joke people think about is you're the biggest dude rolling up into Team Alpha Male. You know what I mean? And you're not allowed. I mean, Uriah is the first one to say, like, nobody over 5'10" or something like that is allowed, except for Chris Holdsworth, I guess, is the exception to the rule. But, certainly, yeah, you have a lot of knowledge to impart to them, I would imagine. Like, they probably wanted to pick your brain just as much as you wanted to get a fresh look from these guys.
Yeah, I definitely... I feel like Faber and I have been in the game quite a while. I remember he was I was watching him when he was fresh out of college, fighting King of the Cage, and this is when I was in the small underground shows back in the Midwest, and just kind of fighting for $50 to $75, and then I met him at Strikeforce or something like that, and he's, hey, come on out, check it out. And then I went out there and for the week while he was fighting when he fought Jens Paul for the first time, and I stayed and worked out with those guys, and I just knew it was a good vibe, a great atmosphere, great place to work out at, and so it fit right in there. And I get texts from people, how's it feel to be walking amongst the midgets or whatever, and being one of the tall guys out there? It just cracks me up. But it's a special place, and I think we all have a lot to offer. We can all help each other, because their background, and not only mixed martial arts, but their wrestling background. They have so many up and comers too that are just studs, D1 All-Americans, multiple time All-Americans, national champs. I mean, it's really cool. A lot of black belts, a lot of jiu-jitsu guys, good striking coaches. So they kind of have the best of both worlds, and it's in a cool city, but kind of small city feel. I never really spent a whole bunch of time in Sacramento, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is cool up there. They have a lot going on, and obviously Money Mendes, he just keeps shutting everybody down. And the second fight with Jose Aldo was so great. I am curious what you think, though. The talk is whether or not he should get the next crack at whoever wins between Jose and Conor, or if Frankie, the winner of Frankie Edgar, should get that, and Uriah, obviously. What are your thoughts on that?
First of all, bringing up the Aldo and Mendes, the second fight, I think that gets overlooked a lot. To me, that was not only was that the best featherweight fight I've seen, that was one of the best fights I've seen in years and in a decade. That was just, it wasn't just a slugfest. Those guys went out there, I don't know if they touched gloves, and they just, man, you knew it was going to be intense. Like, I don't even want to get into sparring sessions like that, let alone 25 minutes in Brazil, in the backyard, in the doghouse, by the favelas. Like, I mean, those guys, it was intense, and it just showed how much respect they have for each other after. And not too often do you see Jose Aldo have a scratch on him. I mean, his face, he was battered. He got banged up, and Chad didn't really look, I mean, it was a closer fight. Had it been somewhere else, more on neutral ground, but awesome fight, and that one's going to happen again. Is he going to get the winner of McGregor and Aldo? We'll see. That'd be awesome, because of the kind of what's going, the talk between, Chad and McGregor as well. And McGregor, it seems like he's got a little something with about pretty much the 4 or 5 top guys there, in the featherweight division. So, but then, there's also, is he going to get the winner of, Frankie Edgar and his teammate, Uriah Faber? So it's interesting. I'll leave that up to them. But I think that's why I think super fights are important, and that's really cool that the UFC is going to Manila, and they're having 2 of the most popular guys out there. I kind of think of me and Frankie is the Ray Boom Boom Mancini's kind of, and the Marcianos or the Rocky Grazianos of the lightweight and now featherweight division. East Coaster dudes fought everybody. Him and I were always the smallest at lightweight, and I still feel, kind of undersized at featherweight. So it just we fight up to the competition. We fight up to those big guys. We're not going to be pushed around. And see Faber, who's done everything in the sport. You know what I mean? He's been so close, and to getting that UFC strap. And it's going to happen. But so that's awesome that the UFC is going out to the Philippines and catering to those fans and bringing them in. And I believe that's what it's going to take, is super fights like that to keep the sport fresh, keep the buzz new, keep something, something different, instead of just, got to work your way up the top 5, top 10, you know what I mean? So it's cool to see guys that are able to sell tickets like that, and I know that's going to be a big one. And then following the next weekend is one of the biggest fights.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Well, you being a part of Jackson's, you obviously know John Jones well. Anthony Rumble Johnson is a tough opponent, as we've seen. He's just a violent man. In the best way in the octagon. He's very dangerous. But you know how good John is by training alongside him. How do you see that fight going?
The longer the fight, the better for John. I'm sure you've heard it before. If the first 5 minutes is going to be like hell, it's going to be 5 minutes of fury, and you know that Anthony's going to just move forward. He's going to shut down John's leg kicks, or try to. He's going to shut down John's distance and his jabs and his little setups, and try to just cut the ring off, cut the cage off, and go head hunting. He's going to try to stop the wrestling or impose his own wrestling, come with big uppercuts and overhands is what I think. Try to stun him and just, throw bombs on him. It's going to be a street brawl, you know what I mean? I think it's going to be like two big, huge athletes, just coming at each other, and John's going to just try to stay out of the way a little bit and try to tire out Anthony Johnson and just use his skill, use his savviness, use his veteranship and his championship savvy, that he's had 7, 8, 9, 10 times now. I lose track. It's crazy.
He's amazing. Do you think, people do question whether John can take a punch? You know what I mean? And we certainly know that Anthony can give it. How good is John's chin?
John's got a chin. We've seen it. He's been hit by a Rashad. He's been hit by Glover Teixeira with those boxing, I call them Tyson hooks, uppercuts, that, you know what I mean? He's been hit by some tough dudes with very good striking, and, he's got a chin on him. So don't be fooled. He can do it all. He really is. I say he's the Michael Jordan of MMA. Him and GSP, I said they're those rare athletes that come around once every 50 years, but they're one of those rare athletes that comes around every 100 years, and it's something special to see. I know they're going to have a great fight. It's that whole card stacked from top to bottom.
Yeah, I like John Jones. I feel like a lot of people are just so mad that he's so good. That's really, I feel like, where the root of people's problems lie with him, is that they admire his skill set, and at this point, yeah, he should have a little swagger, and I feel like the frustration is that how can he be this good? It's like,
Okay, another example, LeBron James, when he was with, look what he's done for Cleveland since he's been back there. One of the top teams. Look at what he did when he went to Miami Heat, when him and the boys got together, the big three. I think people, I wouldn't say to use the word despise. I think they hate him for the wrong reasons, or because they can't beat them. Look at what Brett Favre used to do to the Bears. You know what I mean? I used to hate it when I was little, but I'd be like, man, come play for the Bears.
Listen, I'm a Patriots fan, so we got
look at Tom Brady. Yeah. The guy's incredible. The whole team, the owner from Bill Belichick. A lot of people hate Bill Belichick. You hate him for the wrong reasons. You hate him because he's good, and because he's smarter than you, and he knows how to. Right. He knows how to win. He knows how to get the right crew around each other. He knows how to get them primed at the right time. You know what I mean? That's hard to do amongst grown men. So, but John is a puzzle that just keeps getting better and better. And the more motivated, the more time he spends at camp, the more dangerous he gets, and the longer he's going to hold that belt.
Well, speaking of belts, in your post-fight speech, which was special, Clay, it was special. Let me first get to the main question, which was that you mentioned RDA and Pettis, two men that you have beaten before. Are you looking for another fight with one of those guys, really, or you just wanted to remind people, hey, look, Clay just won a fight, and Clay also beat those two guys, the champ and the former champ? What was your motivation there?
I was just stirring the pot a little bit. Yeah, is the UFC going to be calling and saying, hey, you want a rematch with Rafael Dos Anjos or Anthony Pettis? I think they know better than that. Obviously, I have to work my way up there. I think we both fought. We fought those guys around the same time. We were both coming off winning streaks. You know what I mean? It was a few years back. They've both been on streaks. They were a couple of defining fights in both of their careers, and I think two of them were against me. Where I kind of beat them at what they weren't smart enough about yet. What they weren't, it wasn't their background, and then ever since then, those guys went on a tear. Besides Rafael coming up short against
Nurmagomedov,
yes, which he kind of used the same, you know what I mean?
He got wrestled.
Yeah, those guys have both been on a tear. Pettis was beating everybody. I didn't know if he was going to beat a top 10 guy after I, took him down and just, just ground and pound him and stayed on top. And then he just was knocking guys out, submitting guys. He was doing the unthinkable. So I was just stirring the pot. Obviously, I would love to get a chance, to get in there and mix it up with those guys again. They're at the top. That's where I want to be. If they were at the featherweight division, that's they were at the top. That's where I want to be. But I know I can I can get in there and compete with those guys. I don't care how big they are, how long they've had the belt, what they've done, Wheaties box or no, metal chin strap or not. It doesn't matter to me. You know what I mean? They're tough dudes, but we're all human. At the end of the day, we both put on our 4-ounce MMA gloves. We both put on our shin pads and our headgear when we're sparring. We both put on our wrestling shoes. That's what it's all about. It's just, you know, what's going to be an exciting fight, who's earned it. Right now, those guys, you know, the ball's in their court. So.
Well, you said a few minutes ago that you felt undersized at 155 and even slightly at 145. So where do you feel more comfortable, though, and where do you feel that you'll have more success at this point in your career?
I feel with the diet at 145, it's a piece of cake. There's always oh boy, time to get back on the clean diet again, and oh man, you know. But it's like every time, I think a lot of fighters and a lot of athletes who have to diet or have to cut weight, they think about, I don't even cut a pound at 145. It's actually easier for me to make 145 than it is 155, just because there's no sodium in my diet and the weight falls right off. And I see some of these guys running back and forth to the sauna, and I look down and I laugh. I'm like, oh man, I'm doing yoga. I'm running. I'm literally running on the treadmill. I'm running around the hotel, wherever they're at, to lose the weight because I feel good. These guys are worried about where their next pound's going to come off, what sauna they're going to go to. I'm eating the morning of my weigh-ins, and I've fully energized to go do whatever I want to get the weight off, to get on that scale, you know, to recover. At 55, these guys are huge. Look at the guy that Gray Maynard just fought. I don't even remember his
Yakovlev.
Oh my goodness.
He was like 6'1" or something. He's very, very, very tall.
A giant. Yeah. Dude, a giant. Look at the guy that...
And he was formerly at 170. He fought Damian Maia at 170. He fought a couple fights at 170. He wasn't successful, so he dropped.
He's huge. The guy that fought my buddy Danny Castillo, that trains out with Cowboy. He's huge. I mean, all the Gleason, T-Bow, these guys they're enormous at 55. They're getting even bigger at 145. So I just feel this will take you anywhere. You know what I mean? And in a strong mind, you can fight anybody. You can compete with any of them. But these guys, they're not getting any smaller. That's for sure. And I just hope that they're being honest with themselves, and that they're doing it the right way, the healthy way, and keeping everything at a level playing field.
Do you think, you just talked about it having heart. Do you think, obviously it's something that you can't teach. Do you think the fighters are that are active now and that are making their way now, do you think they have the same kind of, guts that the older generation has? I mean, you've seen, sort of a little bit of the changing of the guard. Some of the guys that you fought with have retired. Kenny, I work with all the time, and he's no longer in. A lot of the guys on your resume aren't fighting anymore. So how do you see this kind of current generation versus when you started?
That's a perfect example. Speaking of talent, and one of the most well-spoken in the sport, and Kenny Florian, he fought at 4 different weight classes, did he not? 185 on the Ultimate Fighter, fighting huge guys, being a soccer player, going to fight in the house, then down to 170, which, he still wasn't like slim and trim, but he was competitive, beat some very, very talented fighters. 155, he fought in the title fight twice, Sean Shurik and BJ Penn, and on his way to those title fights, he took out some of the best guys, finished some of the best guys, you know what I mean? And he was one of the turning points of my career, which I thank him for, taught me to just get back to what I do, what got me there. And then went down to 145 and had some successful wins and, fought Jose Aldo. So, I mean, the guys, he's fought the best of the best. So it's, heart will take you, a long way. And I think there's the old cliche, I'll take, what is it, hard, hold on one second. Hard work.
Oh, what is it? Hard work beats talent.
Talent doesn't work hard. Yeah, so it's kind of a cliche, but I really believe it true, and I find that, as being an instructor and a high school wrestling coach too, I'd much rather take the guy that is going to put in the time and stay after practice, that isn't the tallest, isn't the best athlete, doesn't play 3 or 4 sports, stuff doesn't come to him easy. I'll take that kid that wants to work extra and, and wants to put the time in, other than the kid that, Joe Cool, that just expects everyone to kind of cater to him.
So let's talk about that speech, though. You talked about Obama. You talked about wrestling programs. You talked about, RDA and Pettis. You thanked the crowd, which was always nice. I might be missing something, too. I don't know if you talked about the Easter Bunny. And I know you guys get hit in the head a lot, and I give you guys a pass. But what was up with that speech?
Just to clarify, about Obama, I knew we were kind of in his side yard, his backyard. We weren't far from the Capitol. And Joe Silva put together an amazing card. His family was there, his relatives, I believe his mom was there, he told us. So that was really cool. But I just figured it would have been cool. I think a lot of people would have looked highly upon it. People watching at home, people there live, to see the president there, see.
Well, that would have been amazing.
Yeah, how about it? I mean, it might take away from the fights a little bit, or just to see him present at more live events. Yes, is he tending to our nation's affairs and important issues? We hope so. And on the weekends when he's not spending time with his family, it'd be cool to see him at some events. Bulls game. I know he's a Sox fan because he's from Chicago. But Cubs games, Bears game, whatever. Just some national events, and you see him doing. He's a big basketball fan, but and I know he realizes. Because I heard Anthony Robles is a Division I. Wrestler with one leg. He was national champ, and I heard that he maybe worked with Mr. Obama, with President Obama a while back. So he does know. He is very aware of college wrestling, but I'm just trying to draw more awareness to MMA through wrestling, through NCAA wrestling, and that's what I think it's all about. So I was just kind of,
I wasn't sure.
I was seeing if he was listening, and knowing that he's a neighbor of Fairfax. So that's all it's about.
Very nice. And obviously, there's a big deal wrestling going here in town this weekend, which is also part of the reason you're out here in LA. I went to that last year. It was great. I saw Jordan Burroughs just gator roll this dude. It was phenomenal. It's amazing when you see people that are that good at something. But a lot of schools we know not continuing their wrestling programs, and for so many people it's such a great discipline. It's such a great way for children to find themselves. So if you could make a plea to people about keeping wrestling or why wrestling's important, what do you think the most fundamental reasons are?
If you want to see mixed martial arts continue to grow, a lot of the mixed martial arts started in wrestling. I believe that the best jiu-jitsu fighters or jiu-jitsu practitioners have the best chance being a wrestler because their top game is so strong. Look at what Matt Hughes used to do. That he would just get on top of guys and ground upon them. George St. Pierre, and GSP didn't start wrestling till he started fighting, and then he realized what the dominant sport was. And look at that, he would train with the Canadian national team, beat some of the best wrestlers in the sport in Koscheck. So I think just drawing awareness and letting people know that there's kids clubs all over. Go to USA Wrestling, go to Flow Wrestling, and watch these websites. Bring your kids to these cheap wrestling tournaments on the weekend, and and if they don't maybe like wrestling at first, let them go play something else. Let them do another sport, and then maybe try again later, and maybe they'll learn to like it. Because there was nothing like when I was 5, 6 years old, and I got to go run up to my buddy and headlock him, and I wasn't going to get yelled at by my mom or his mom. Or, It was cool. I was in my sweatpants or my shorts and T-shirt, and we got to go beat each other up on the mat, and it was awesome because it was a free-for-all. And I don't know, I had an addiction to it since at a young age. I was never very good at it, That's why I'm trying to do things now in mixed martial arts, to make up for that. And I'm trying to draw, people to the sport of wrestling because it was very, very close that it almost didn't make past the docket for the, Olympics a couple years ago. So thankful for that. And I just want to see, the popularity grow, what ESPN did for the NCAAs. And Anthony Robles was the commentator for that. So it's just a special time in the sport right now. And this World Cup freestyle is going to be awesome at the LA Forum. I'm looking forward to it.
It's funny, my daughter takes jiu-jitsu with Cobrinha, who's an incredible coach, but she was sparring with somebody that, real light sparring, but I was like, level change, that's all I'm thinking. They don't really, it's part of what they do in jiu-jitsu when they're teaching takedowns, but certainly wrestling's a big part of it. And my awareness of wrestling now is so much greater than it ever was before. And I'm looking at stuff about like what she could be doing. I can't yell that out in the middle of class, but to me, I was like, well, if she just had some wrestling in there too, she'd be reckoned for.
Look, you get to work with, working with DC, working with Melendez, all these great wrestlers. You get to work Dominic Cruz, and they know what got them there. Yeah. It's incredible. It's a great sport. Like you said, it builds character. It's just hardworking. You need passion for it. You need desire. It's sacrifice. It'll make a man out of you.
Yeah, actually, there was a thing they did for the media a couple of years ago at one of the UFC shows, and they had some fighters take us through some workouts. And I've told the story before, but DC took us through a wrestling workout, just 20 minutes. We did 20 minutes here. We did 20 minutes of boxing with Mike Pyle. We did 20 minutes of jits with Alan Belcher and Joe Benavidez. And those 20 minutes of wrestling were some of the hardest 20 minutes. And I work out. I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like with the duck walking and the this and the sprawl and this. But it was amazing. That was a warm-up.
Yeah, light workout probably. Imagine being a Division I wrestling over 4 or 5 years when these guys use their redshirt year. It's Big Ten, it's like they're animals. They're pure animals. That's why I think it makes the transition over to MMA so much easier for them, and that's why they're so dominant.
Yeah, no, I was very impressed. I have my respect level for you guys went way up. I want to wrap this up with you, but I am curious. Did you right away ask for a fight? Are you going to be able to get one soon? How active would you like to be?
That's a good question. Nothing's scheduled yet. I know people have been talking more than I have about the Chicago card. Finally, they're coming to. I think Fox is coming to Chicago end of July. So I
know because we've been in there in January. I'm like, dude, come on.
It's brutal. It's like why would people don't want to go there in the first place, let alone pay to go there. So it'll be nice. The Cubbies will be playing. There'll be baseball going on. It's always Lake Michigan, Chicago's just it's great in the summertime. So we'll see. I think it's going to be a good card. I don't even really know who's on it yet, but don't be surprised if we're on it. I don't really have a time frame, but I feel good after the last one, and it'll be a nice little break. But I want to do a little bit of fishing and then get back in the cage soon.
Nice. So, what kind of fishing?
I love bass fishing. I haven't been out on the ocean in a while, but I got my little kayaks, my little bass boat. So.
Nice. And do you really do have the Winnebago that you drive around in?
It's in Chicago, as a matter of fact, right now. I sleep on the beach when I'm out here.
I don't know that that's totally safe, though.
No, or legal.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's cool, that's fine. And to date, do you know, in your mind, do you have 2 or 3 favorite fights of yours, favorite victories that you felt? At the end of the day, when I ask somebody, says, hey, show me the 3 most important Clay Guida fights, what would I pick?
Definitely the Strike Force against Josh Thompson, because that just kind of put us on the map. We got brought out to San Jose to be a tomato can, and for 25 minutes, me and Josh battled. It was awesome, and we were literally, it was 2 of my cousins were the only ones there from San Leandro and Castro Valley. They were the only ones cheering, and 18,000 or 17 were booing us. And I looked at my brother in the corner. I'm like, should we leave, dude? I don't think we're wanted here, Yeah. So that was cool. The UFC debut is always huge. We got our victory. We got submission tonight. October 14th, 2006 is the 10-year anniversary is coming around. It's crazy. We've had a couple standout fights. Even when we didn't win, we're pretty awesome. The Roger Huerta and Diego Sanchez fight people talk about for a long time, but one that I think was even more fun was the Tyson Griffin one when we fought in Belfast, Ireland. That was just all around. I came up short, didn't get my hand raised, but that was an all around mixed martial arts. He was wrestling, jiu-jitsu. I didn't even know how to kickbox or strike, but even though I was doing head kicks and he kicked me in the head, so it was just cool in Ireland, and kind of saved the card. So. And
are you okay with a loss? How hard do you take it?
I'm not okay with a loss. I'm hardly okay with a win sometimes. I'm never satisfied, and I, just from seeing some of my favorite athletes and in the Dick Butkus and Gail Sayers and some of these guys, big Bears fan, just old school sports, and they're never satisfied with with the performance. Nolan Ryan, these guys, and you can always do more. You can always get better. There's always little improvements to to make that where you get bigger gains from. So even in a win, there's a lot of improvements to be made.
Well, I started playing tennis, and my season starts soon, and I like it a lot, but I'm very, very competitive. And I had a match, it was just like a practice thing or whatever, and I lost, and I was so pissed. I mean, and I was played sports all my life, younger and everything, but it's different. I've been away from it a little, but I kind of feel like, hey, I'm around all these athletes all the time. That's why I ask. It's for me, because you guys all process it differently, and there's always something to learn. And I know you learn more from a loss, but at the same time, it's a very different experience doing something competitive.
We demand a lot out of ourselves. People who are competitive always in their job site, in their career, wherever it may be, they demand excellence, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, absolutely. Well, it's been excellent seeing you, Clay. I'm glad we were able to work this out. Always a pleasure, and you've just been doing this for so long, and I and so many people just really appreciate all the effort and all the entertainment you've provided us for all over these years.
Oh, there's much more to come. I'm glad we were able to do it down here in the South Bay instead of off of Skype, which I still don't know how to do. But one day, the caveman will come out of his cave and learn what the intranet is all about, or the interweb, and we'll get it on there one day. But much nicer down here in Hermosa.
Thanks, Clay.
Karyn, appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Hey, everyone. I'm Clay the Carpenter Guida, and you're watching MMA Heat.